right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. And thank you all so much for joining me for today's episode. So I have been missing episodes, and I know I need to get back on track, and there have been a plethora of reasons why I've missed episodes. And last week I missed an episode. I'm jumping ahead again. If you're new to the podcast, this is a question and answer based podcast. Fairly informal, I would say. But if you have questions about OCD and anxiety disorders and you would like to send them in, you would like me to answer them, consider them, give you some stuff to think about, give you some ways to challenge yourself, go to fearcastpodcast.com and you can send me your question over there by clicking on the submit a question link. You can send in your audio question that gets to the tippity top of the list. Click on the speech pipe button there, or you can send me your recorded question over at questions@fearcastpodcast.com. You can also send me your audio question by sending me a DM over at Instagram. I am Fearcast Podcast over the Instagram. So any of those ways you can get me questions, and we will get to those at some point. So I missed last week's episode. I was trying to get into the office. I came in on Tuesday. I typically record on like a Thursday or something like that, and then I publish them that following Monday. Last week, I got in Tuesday. I'm like going to get some work done, get caught up on some few things, and then I'll record, on my Thursday. And then everyone in the house gets sick. Everyone in the house gets sick. The in-laws who typically watch the kids, they get sick, so everyone's sick. So I have the opportunity that I could kind of work from home, do sessions from home, that sort of stuff, moved some things around. But unfortunately, all my podcasting stuff is at the office. So I just couldn't. So, taking care of sick kids, sick wife, everything is sick. The lawn is sick. The weather is sick. The international policies are sick. I don't know. Everything's broken. So here we are doing an episode. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to answer more questions than I need to, more questions than I typically do. I'm going to answer 4 questions today. Now, 4 questions. Let me share 4 things that people sent in. One of them is a success story. So I also want to add that. We on this podcast, I think we all want to know that success is possible, right? I think academically we know it's possible. Like you hear stories about it, you read stories about it. There are all these people writing books and doing podcasts talking about success. So where's the success? So I want to share those stories. I want to try to put those on the forefront for y'all too. So if you have a success story in any facet, I want to share it. And you can send it to me. You can do audio question again. You can send it to me via message. So I'm sharing one that somebody emailed me they sent it to me at fearcastpodcast.com and then submit a question. But there's also that little drop down that says success stories, an option. So I'm going to read someone's success story. And it's a small win. But that's what all this is about. It's small wins. I think we need to remember this, that success in treatment is not you had anxiety and now you don't, or you did a bunch of compulsions and now you don't. The progress is different, right? Progress with our life, with our mental health is slow and steady. And it comes with these big wins, these small wins and setbacks, right? We expect to have those too. I expect to have those in my life as well with my accomplishments and the things that I'm trying to do, right? It's not an opportunity to beat ourselves up or an opportunity to just up and quit. Instead, it's an opportunity for us to look at what's going on, to look at the challenges that we're having, and to say, what can I do differently? What can I do better? How can I challenge myself further? And how can I grow from this? That's the idea. That's what we're trying to get at. So I'm going to share somebody's win. And I think it's a big win. It could be a small win. I don't know how they define it. But it's all those little moments where we just go, this is hard. I'm going to do it. Or this is a challenge. This is difficult. This is more than I think I can handle. This is more than I can chew, whatever the phrase may be for you. But the more you do it, the more you build the confidence that you can do it and that you can do the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it slowly starts to build, right? I love the analogy of exercise in this, and I know it's relevant because I have physical health goals this year. I'm trying to get physically healthy. I haven't felt healthy in a while, so I'm trying to put some effort into that, and I'm really monitoring a lot of things that I'm doing and trying to just kind of improve my health. But it's like I think they're really analogous in the sense that when we're trying to get in shape or change something or, whatever our health goals are, we look at where we are and we look at where we want to be and we go, it's just impossible. Or you look at that person over there and go, there's no way I could do that. And if we buy into that narrative, it doesn't give us motivation to try, to experiment, to do something, to figure out a way to make it work for us. Right. And that's, I think, something to really consider for this process is that there isn't a exactly right way to do it. You've heard me talk about the ERP process. Sometimes we talk about a hierarchy. Sometimes we talk about not doing a hierarchy. Sometimes you do it in a regimented, start with the easiest stuff, go to the hardest stuff. Sometimes it's about picking random things on the list of just stuff that you're willing to do. Sometimes we're not even going to talk about exposures. We're just going to talk about living life as your exposure. So we're not seeking it out. We're just tolerating the anxiety that's there. With lifting weights and trying to build muscle and that sort of stuff, well, you start with small and you do that one until you feel ready to move on to the next one, until it becomes easy. It becomes easier at least. And then you want to challenge yourself. And maybe you challenge yourself a little bit and you go, oh my gosh, that was really hard. I'm going to try it again next time. And maybe I'm not going to do my full set, or I'm going to do not all 10. I'm going to do 5 and then drop back to my regular weight. And then next time, instead of doing 5, your body is able to magically do 7 or 8 or whatever it is. But it's all about consistency, about doing it and being present, about trying, about pushing yourself and having compassion for the days that you just don't have it in the tank to do it. And on those days that you don't, I hope you have compassion for yourself, because maybe tomorrow you do. But if you give up and you quit, you'll never get there. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that stuff. But I wanted to share an exposure idea for some people. So we've talked about existential OCD here. And one of the fears that some people have, and I think I answered a question about this, a while ago. It's the concern about thoughts and whether or not we have free choice, right? Whether or not I am actually making my decisions, or if my brain is making them for me, and my consciousness isn't actually making the choice. The I am not making the choice. It's just my brain, or it's the universe, or whatever it may be, is making it for me. And that can be really scary for a lot of people. Just the idea that maybe you don't have your choices, and it can lead to a lot, or you're not making your own decisions. Maybe that can lead to fears that, you are not actually in control. If you are not in control, well, then what? And if people aren't in control, well, then can we hold people accountable for their decisions and actions? You get the idea where this can kind of snowball. But so the book that I'm reading is, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I'm assuming I'll get some hate for this. It's Dan Brown's newest book. So Dan Brown is the author of The Da Vinci Code. They made a movie about it a bunch of years ago. I read the book, and I think this is the 4th book I've read from Dan Brown. It's the same. They're formulaic, and it's the same character kind of going through these different stories and doing a lot of the same stuff. But I think they're interesting, and they're kind of like candy as far as books go. They're formulaic. They set you up for these cliffhangers at the end of each chapter. You're like, I got to know what's going to happen next, so let me just keep going. So I'm going through it, and this most recent book is all about the idea that maybe we don't have our own consciousness. So maybe our brain isn't making our decisions, or maybe our brain is making our decisions for us and we aren't actually doing it. Or we can control the past, or we can control the future, or that we are just subject to a collective decision-making process that is just happening, maybe out of our control, right? And so all of that can be very uncomfortable, very scary for some people. But you know what? If that's your thing, if that's your fear, check it out. It's worth a read. It's a very long exposure, but it's something that I think as you continue to read it, and just like every other exposure, the more that you do it, the easier it gets. And there are those moments that will make you feel anxious, and then you just keep on going. I was recently working with a person, and their fear was a certain type of movie. So what we did was we built it up, and we wrote stories about it, and we watched smaller things about this type of movie, and he eventually got to watching it, and they went, it's actually not a big deal. It wasn't that bad. And there was a lot of prep, and there was a lot of anticipation, and the biggest, hardest part about it was the anticipation. But this was not the first time he jumped into it, right? He had watched other things before. So with this book, I think it could be a really good and fun exposure. What's crazy is I was looking at the books from Dan Brown on this, and it's like he has like 5 or 6 or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know which ones I've read and which ones I haven't. I know I've read a couple of them, but like some of these other ones, I'm like, I might have. I don't know. So point is, check it out. All right, let's get into the questions. All right, so let's jump into these. So the first question is coming from Misty. Misty says, hello, I've been a longtime listener of the Fearcast, and I thought I'd send a request in for an episode. I'm a 32-year-old woman who has had multiple OCD symptoms from religion, relationships, sexual orientation, and so on. The ones that I seem to have a hard time shaking off are my relationship and sexual orientation ones. Very, very common, Misty. It seems that they stick around a lot longer than the others. And they go on to say, I've been with my wife for 12 years, and it seems to only be getting worse. I guess my question would be, is there such thing as a lesbian having OCD about being straight? I have joined OCD groups on Facebook and had said something about my OCD, and somebody had responded saying that they don't know that was an OCD symptom, or that they had responded they don't know that was an OCD symptom. They just thought that only straight people had sexual orientation OCD, and it had got me into a rumination. Misty. All right, so here's the answer. Yeah. Lesbians can absolutely have obsessions and have OCD about being straight. Gay men can have that concern. People who identify as bisexual can have a concern that they are straight, or that they are actually gay and that they are just deluding themselves. So it is across the board. Now, so hard answer, yes, of course people can have it, because guess what, Misty, you has it, so people can has it. Here's what this is all about. What this really comes up for me is the exact reason why the shift from HOCD, homosexual OCD, which is what we used to call this type of obsession, is now called sexual orientation OCD. Now, if you listen to one of my old episodes, or if you are a longtime listener, you know that when we started the podcast, that was the term, HOCD. I did a whole episode on it. And then I did an episode later on where we were talking about HOCD and the transition. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to make that transition to sexual orientation OCD, because it got away from homosexual OCD, as that was the fear. But during the even episode I was even making reference to straight OCD, or reverse HOCD is what I called it. And I don't know if that's what people called it or just me as people called it. But that's what I was calling it, because the reality is that this is a fear that people have. So the shift to sexual orientation OCD broadens out the subject for folks. Because what the title of sexual orientation OCD, or harm OCD, or scrupulosity, or contamination, or real event, or any of those titles give it, it gives us a shorthand, a colloquial understanding of what the types of obsessions are going on, the types of compulsions the person may or may not be going through, the types of things that are going to trigger them, or in some cases, some of the eccentricities and some of the kind of unique characteristics of that body of obsessions has, and therefore the approach and treatment that would require. at the end of the day, they are all OCD. It is all an unwanted, intrusive thought that in the form of a thought, feeling, image, sensation, or urge that produces anxiety or an unwanted feeling state that is responded to by a compulsive behavior, often known as reassurance seeking, avoidances, checking, those types of things. Anyways, you get the idea. It's through this process, it's through that cycle that helps us to, or leads us to, the diagnosis of OCD. In the OCD community, we have come up with these different titles to give a name to give validation to the experience of, and to kind of give a sense of inclusion that you're not weird or broken or bad or uniquely, something. There's a name for what you got. There's a community within the OCD community for what you got. So that's the advantage of it. The disadvantage is that if the name HOCD is in play, well, I'm already identifying as gay or lesbian, and, well, I have obsessions about being straight. Well, there's no straight OCD, right? This is where Sexual Orientation OCD as a title comes in. So Misty, this is where I really want you to start to think about it. That's where you're at. It is an obsession about your sexual orientation. It is OCD about the theme of sexual orientation. So that's that story being played out. So this is where we're catching the compulsions. The compulsions about what you're doing to try to affirm something, to try to understand something, to try to eliminate something. Minimizing those compulsions as much as you can, accepting this uncertainty. And in this case, it would be, well, you know what, maybe I got it all wrong. I know I've been with my wife, and I know that I've been attracted to women for all these years, and guess what? Maybe I got it all wrong. And maybe my entire life will have to change because of it. But maybe you didn't. Maybe it's OCD, right? So if anybody out there is trying to tell you that you can't have sexual orientation OCD, or you can't have HOCD, even if they use that term, because you identify as being gay, roll your eyes at them and ignore them. Just ignore them, right? Some people out there we don't need to convince, but for you to know, yes, of course, you can have this obsession. So, all right, so I think we'll just jump in with that. So, or we'll leave it there. But I hope that helps. And Misty, I hope you're able to kind of work with someone and kind of get a handle on this and find the validation in the community and the encouragement that you're looking for. All right, so this next question. Okay, I'm gonna mispronounce the name, and you wrote it phonetically, and I still am gonna screw it up. Okay, they said it was Chi-Chak. Chi-Chak, Chi-Chak, Cheechaak is the phonetic spelling. Cick is the way it's spelled. Chichak. I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at this. Please forgive me. Okay, so here's their question. I said, hey, I appreciate that. I have a question, but perhaps it's confusing. What is an obsession/intrusive thoughts? Are they the same thing or different? Oh, I love this question. I ask this because I constantly hear people talking about obsessions or intrusive thoughts in OCD, but I don't really view the distressing thoughts that motivate me to do a compulsion as intrusive thoughts, as, quote, intrusive thoughts. I just view them as genuine concerns that I have. So in a way, I don't view my OCD as being comprised of obsessions and compulsions. In my opinion, they're only compulsions. They say, thank you, I love the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. I am so sorry I'm incapable of pronouncing your name. If I heard you say it, I could know how to say it right, but I'm going to screw it up. I apologize. I've said enough. All right. So, all right, so what is an obsessive intrusive thought? All right, so colloquially, a lot of people use them interchangeably. I think clinically or, maybe diagnostically, we would use them differently. We would have different specific definitions for the two. Oftentimes I hear people saying them at the same time or in the same way. Some people say, I've been obsessing about something, right? Some people say, I'm having my intrusive thoughts, right? Some people say, I'm dealing with an obsession. I'm having an obsession, right? Some people would say I'm having a compulsive thought, right? So I hear people use these terms a lot. And for some people, I will correct them. For some people, I clinically in the chair in my practice, for some people, I'm just going to kind of go with it because for some folks and in some situations, making the correction is a minor point for me in terms of being able to help someone. What I would likely do is offer a clear definition in the psychoeducation phase. It's kind of the first couple of sessions after the initial assessment, kind of when we starting therapy in earnest. We're going to talk about what the terms are, how we're using them, what they mean, how they compare and are different than others. So it sounds like that's ultimately what we are doing here. And yet, even if I do that, some people will still use the terms. And I'm just going to roll with it because it's not worth getting in a fight over for me. Okay. So something to think about is, I would say, an intrusive thought. And again, we can have a fight over this, but I'll explain what some of the fight means. Okay. So an intrusive thought, people would talk about it as it is a thought that forced its way into your consciousness that just seem to arise out of nowhere. And oftentimes when they call it an intrusive thought, it's usually in a bad or unwanted kind of context, right? So but let's remember, by this definition, an intrusive thought is a thought that just showed up without you asking for it, right? Now, in some contexts, people would call that an epiphany, right? An intrusive thought that was good. It just showed up. You're like, oh, that was the answer to the question that I had, right? An intrusive thought at the end of the day is a thought like all the other ones, wanted or unwanted, quote, good or quote, bad. They are all thoughts. They are thoughts that exist in your head. They are the thoughts that you have, even though I know we'll talk about them as this is an OCD thought, or this is my thought, or this is my true self thought. There are a lot of people who would argue against these terms. There are some therapists who make very good arguments as to why they are all your thoughts, or why it's helpful to kind of disembody them and separate and say, well, these are my OCD thoughts and these are not my OCD thoughts. In my experience working with folks, there are some times it's helpful to make that distinction for people where we can kind of externalize this or kind of make a separation. And some people find that compulsive to have to analyze the thought to decide, is this an OCD thought or is this a true good my thought, right? So the intrusive thought is going to be any sort of thought that comes in your head that ultimately you probably didn't want, but it's an intrusive thought. It's a thought that you didn't ask for that just popped up. Again, if I'm sitting here talking to you and all of a sudden I have this thought about this thing that I needed to do that I thought I forgot about, well, guess what? It's an intrusive thought because right now I'm supposed to be doing podcast, right? But if my brain goes, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to pick up my daughter from Girl Scouts later tonight, and I wasn't seeking that thought out, that is an intrusive thought. It just popped up without my asking for it or seeking it out or whatever the case. My brain just popped it in, okay? So it's an intrusive thought, but guess what? It's still a thought. So what is an obsession, right? An obsession within the world, well, an obsession is just, I think we would just use it as a thought that we're stuck on, that we're thinking about it over and over and over again. If we want to pathologize it, we'd say it's a thought that we are stuck on, and it's a thought that is unhelpful to us, or it is taking time away from us living our life, right? You might think about a TV show for someone, it might become an obsession to them. So they are watching it a lot. They are thinking about it a lot, but they might not say it's a problem. They might say it's a problem in the sense that they're not able to, get to bed on time or do chores at night or chores during the day, or they might not be able to, have other conversations for a time because that is the thing that is in their mind. That is an obsession in a sense. But that would be maybe a positive, desirable obsession at various times. That may have a a consequence to them, right? It may, again, like not going to bed on time, not being able to study enough or write a paper for school or whatever the case may be. I think when we're talking about an obsession for OCD, this is a theme that shows up constantly that we are stuck on. I'll often phrase it as an obsession is a question that pops up, right? It's a what if or an if-then type of thought. And I will also talk about it here as the feared story, right? The obsession is this feared story that your brain is giving you, that it's not a fact. It's a possibility. It's something that could happen. But usually when we call it an obsession within an OCD land, it's something that we don't want or that produces an unwanted feeling state like fear or anxiety or disconnection or uneasiness or uncertainty. And that's where the compulsions come in, is to try to eliminate that bad feeling or to ensure that story doesn't happen or that what if question doesn't come out in the way that you don't want it to. The ICBT friends would call it something, would also give another spin on it. They'd call it an obsessive doubt, right? So the obsessive doubt as opposed to natural doubt. And again, if I'm getting this wrong, I apologize. But the natural doubt is just simply not having the answer to something that we can look up. That we look up or we consider it and we get to our answer and we have our answer, right? The obsessive doubt is then that same question coming up that makes us question or doubt or, push aside the answer that we got. We doubt what we've already read. We doubt what we've already understood or heard. And now we're asking that same question a different way. We're just, again, going back to and getting stuck on this question that is unanswerable, right? So, that would be another way to describe this. So again, so let's take a step back again. So all the thoughts in OCD, all the what ifs, these are all things that we could consider. They are questions. Am I going to get into a car accident and die today? I don't know. But in the case of OCD, if that was my fear and I got this anxiety about it and I started to do some mental or some overt or covert compulsions about it, that might be a problem. But it's still a thought that I could consider. And the answer to that question could be no. Am I going to get into a car accident today? No. Right? Every obsession that ever comes up, that anyone out there that you have worried about or spent hours about stressing over and ruminating about, they are academic questions that some people find interesting or fun or enjoyable or challenging or just simply they're curious about it. But the difference, though, is the fear associated with it that leads it to being OCD and the compulsions around it that really make it OCD, right? That really make it a problem, right? Are we doing too much about it, especially a thought that we don't really care about, right? So those are some of those things to really consider. Now, you said in this, let's see here, I don't view my OCD as being comprised of obsession compulsions, just compulsions. What you're describing there is like the textbook definition of the pure O discussion, right? Where they say there's no obsession, it is just compulsions. It is just thinking over and over and over again, or planning, or considering, or trying to understand something. It is ultimately a behavior that you're stuck in, the mental behavior of trying to understand something, to try to eliminate a bad feeling, to try to get to a certain outcome, to try to get to a certain emotional state. Okay? All right. So what I would encourage you to do in this is to consider that, is to kind of trail this back. What is that behavior that you're doing, the mental compulsion, the thought process you're engaging with? What is it serving? And what is the question you're trying to answer? Again, oftentimes it is a what if or an if then question, right? So the question might be, well, what if I'm gay? Again, that can be a question that all of us have asked or could consider. And for some people, they're going to get stuck in it. But if the question is, if the compulsion then that you're engaging with is just about your sexuality and comparing the way you feel to other people, you might say, well, yeah, it's just a worry that I have. I'm just worried. It's a genuine concern. Well, I'm concerned about my sexuality. It's important to me. I want to be right about it. Okay, I get that. We want to be right about some things. But is the amount of effort you're putting into it, the behaviors that you're doing, the compulsions that you're doing, are they commensurate with the thought itself? Or is there a lot more pressure and a lot more stress and a lot more urgency placed on this thinking and figuring out process than maybe the question calls for? So that would be something to consider. And again, trail that back to see what that initial question is. And I'm willing to bet from that, you'll be able to identify what the obsession is. The obsession is the cause for the behavior, which is the compulsion. And again, behaviors can be overt, so external that you can see, or they can be covert, hidden, stuff that's just going on inside. The covert ones, thinking about things, playing stories in the future, trying to plot and plan what you're going to say, mentally reviewing stuff that you have gone over or have had conversations about or events that have happened, fantasizing about something, physically evaluating for feelings or for physical sensations. All of that is stuff that is a covert compulsion, stuff that you aren't seeing if you're watching this on YouTube, which, by the way, you can check me out over the YouTubes. But you can't see me do it, but I might be doing that all internally, and it's hidden, okay? So that's what would be my answer to that. So I hope that was helpful in terms of giving a difference or clarifying those 2 points. But again, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of colloquial usage of those terms, but I hope I've given you a way to kind of parse those out of what is an obsession and what is an intrusive thought, how they relate and how they fit within both, quote, pure O and OCD more broadly. Okay. The next question comes from Hetty. Hetty says, they said, first of all, I want to thank you for your excellent podcast. Thank you. It has been an immense source of reassurance that I'm not alone. I hope this is the good amount of reassurance, that I'm not alone. It has reminded me that there's potential to make my life less unbearable. They say, I suffer from all manner of obsessions, mainly the big, quote, pure O, and my mind is sticky to most worries. BDD, health, money, real event, perfectionism, etc. I know that I know you only have time for one question, though. Actually, I have time for more, so you could have laid it on me. All right. I have horrendous anxiety, self-hatred, and panic over my eating. I am fit, not overweight, but I obsessively count every calorie and punish myself through intense exercise or extreme self-loathing if I eat a morsel over my allowance. My life is focused around surviving each day without overeating. My question is ERP a suitable method for trying to break the cycle here? Should I eat one morsel over my allowance and try to live with the intense, all-consuming panic without then binge eating? And they say parenthetically, because I've failed, so I might as well fail big, right? They go on to say, without binge eating or excessive exercise, coupled with a bit of self-harm for good measure. So sure. And they said, thank you again. All right, Hetty, this is a great question. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through that cycle. So I'll start by saying this is a great question for that kind of, it straddles that line between OCD obsessions and eating disorder and disordered eating, right? There are some people out there who are great therapists who the overlap between these two things is exactly what they specialize. The person that comes off the top of my head for that is Kimberly Quinlan. I know she has a podcast. She's got a book. She's everywhere. She's amazing. Go check her out. She would be a wonderful person to work with or consult with on this and looking at the overlap between these two. I have heard, and I think there's a fairly decent argument for eating disorder, disordered eating, being a form or being a kissing cousin of OCD in the sense that there is an obsession. The obsession maybe I'm too I'm too unhealthy, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm not big enough, whatever it might be. And again, this kind of rides that line with BDD as well, body dysmorphic disorder. And if you want a good episode on this, go check them out. I have an episode with Chris Tronsden, where he's talking about BDD. And then I have an episode with Kimberly Quinlan and Chris Tronsden talking about their BDD treatment plan that they put together. It's an amazing, amazing conversation that they had. I was struggling to keep up, but that's what it is. Maybe I'm being self-critical. I'm being self-critical. Okay. But go check it out. Great information in there and a great treatment thing to go through if you're having trouble finding a therapist. Okay. So there's a good overlap between those two, but they are not exactly the same, right? So if this was, so I mean, if you were in my office, I'd be wanting to know, like, what is that? You say you're fit. You're not overweight. I don't know what that means for you or where you're at with that. I would encourage you to maybe consider talking with a doctor about this, consider talking with a nutritionist about this and kind of getting their feedback about where you're at with this. But from a fear and anxiety perspective, I'd be curious about what is the narrative that's going through your mind about not being fit, about the consequences or the impact on your life or what could happen to you if you are not fit. What is so bad about that? And what is to be gained from, or what is the purpose of being fit for you? Because these narratives contribute to the compulsive cycle. The compulsions that you do are there to are in service of this feared story, are in service of the what if and the dangers involved with that. So if you're monitoring your calories, well, there's a purpose that serves you. If you're over exercising, if you're withholding food, that all serves some sort of purpose. I can't imagine that you're doing all those things for fun because you love it. It's doing it because of a fear or a purpose in general. So that's something I want you to consider, is why you're doing these things that you're doing. And then what's the danger involved with not doing those things? Oftentimes within the cognitive restructuring component of treatment, we're going to look at what those stories are and try to challenge them, try to think about them from a different perspective, think about, is there evidence contributing to them, evidence contributing to the opposite of them, or is the evidence lacking that says your fear is a fact, that it will happen, and that the compulsions are justified. So that's what treatment would do, what therapy would do, and I hope you are engaging in some type of that. But that would be some elements of that we'd be going over. But especially the urgency of, like, your life is focused around surviving each day without overeating, as if that's the worst thing. Okay, so I know you said your question is about whether or not ERP is a suitable method for breaking the cycle. As a non-eating disorder specialist, I would say it would contribute to, it'd be part of treatment. A lot of what that's going to be, or some other stuff that's going to be, is looking at the motivations behind this. What are the stories that are going on in your mind? What does it feel like is at risk? How are you in danger if you aren't eating this way or exercising this way, or if you go over, or if you are not as fit as you said that you are? So addressing some of those fears are going to be part of it, but it's not going to be all of it. Some of it is going to be reevaluating your relationship with food, your relationship with diet, and your relationship with exercise, to finding a more functional and sustainable way to do all of that. So it's going to be a lot. I would say part of that would probably be, and I think this would be an interesting experiment, is to have a little bit more than what you would normally eat. The exercise that you talked about here, I think, would be worthy of being interested, and for you to turn your attention towards what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, anxious-wise or fear-wise or tension-wise. If and when you do eat a little bit more that feels safe, and to see what are all those stories that are going on in your mind. And this is where I think acceptance and commitment therapy would be really important, and incredible amounts of self-compassion, right? But being really curious about what the stories your brain is telling you. Because it sounds like part of you, I'm willing to bet, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, part of you says eating a little bit more is okay. Or maybe even eating a little bit more is probably the right thing to do from what I'm anticipating a restrictive caloric amount or caloric diet. So if you were to increase that even by a little bit, what does that feel like? And can you tolerate that feeling? Can you notice how that tension arises, the stories that your brain are playing out, the urges that you then have to resolve that feeling or to get back to a sense of certainty and confidence? So that may be part of what I would encourage you to do. But what I really encourage you to do is to find someone who really specializes in this overlap between these two things. And again, having that self-compassion that if you do overeat, sometimes we need to overeat. Quote, we need to overeat. We need to eat more than what we feel that we would need because it's for a lot of different reasons. But I would encourage you to go chat with someone about that. So, Hetty, I appreciate that question. It's such a difficult one, and there's so much more than just ERP involved with this. All right, so let's get on to the last one. This last one is the success story that comes from Brandon. Brandon says, I was curious about how to try and get rid of my phobia of looking into the sky when your podcast popped up on Google. I became afraid of looking straight up into the sky when I was a young kid. I just watched the show Hercules, and there was a scene in the show where one of the characters got sucked straight up into the sky. So I went outside thinking that could happen to me. But when I wanted to test it, and when I did it, I felt the urge to grab onto something, and to have, and I have had the same fear ever since. What is weird to me is that I have had this phobia, but I obsess over tornadoes, and that I've been wanting to go storm chasing, but I haven't been able to. And you know what? As I'm rereading this, because I read this initially and went, oh, cool, success story, read through it, I misunderstood it. All right, so it's less of a success story and more of a misclicking, and now we're in a how do I fix this? All right, so I guess it's another how we fix this. Okay. All right, so what you're talking about, Brandon, is Casadastraphobia. I did an episode on this during the Phobia Friday series I did a long time ago. That'd be another series to get back into, is to do some of these shorter episodes on different phobias that are out there, and Casadastraphobia is one of them. And interestingly enough, Casadastraphobia is the one fear that I had in that entire series that I get the most responses to and the most feedback about. So you aren't the only person, Brandon, who has had this. So Casadastraphobia, for those of you who are new to it, is this fear about being, and there are differences in opinion, but some people, it's the fear of getting sucked up into the sky, some fear that gravity will stop and they'll just kind of float up into the sky, and a lot of fear about looking up, or a lot of fear about being around really high things. And so some compulsions around that. Some people will just resist going outside into wide open spaces. That can be a contributing factor to it. Some people will wear hats over it to kind of block their view of things above. They'll keep their eyes on the horizon, or they'll just strictly look down a lot. So there's a lot of things that people will do, or they'll like monitor where they walk so they can, if they get sucked up into the sky, they'll like hit something and like it'll stop them from floating up into nothing. All right. So what I had read about this was I had this fear. I looked out. I saw this episode of Hercules and I went, I'm going to frickin' do this. So you went outside, and though you felt the urge, you were able to handle that. And again, I misread this because I misread this. All right. So Brandon, I would really encourage you to go outside. This is going to be uncomfortable, but to start small and to work up. So if it is the fear of looking into the sky, going outside and looking at the horizon and then looking up just a little bit and notice anxiety and then come down. Wait for a few minutes, notice how that anxiety is there, and wait for it to come down, and then go outside again and look a little bit higher. And find out where that limit is for you, where you get uncomfortable, but it feels hard, but it feels like you're willing to do it and you can have it. That is where you're going to start, and you're going to go outside and you're going to do that, and you're going to hold your eyes on that line for as long as you can until that anxiety starts to come down. And then the next day you come out and you go up just a little bit more, and you repeat that process until you can look straight up into the sky. And you may not be eliminating the anxiety. It may be something that is going to be there for a bit, but you're going to let it be there and let it float through and out. And that's kind of our goal. This is a phobia. This is a specific phobia is what we'd call it. So it's a phobia about one specific situation, right? So you're going to practice this and go outside, look at various things. When we talk about the hierarchy, you're going to think about the different places and situations and interactions that trigger your anxiety. You're going to look at the compulsions that you do to try to control for this, and you're going to slowly start pulling back on compulsions and slowly start leaning into those situations that raise anxiety. And sooner or later, you will notice that you are able to do things that you weren't able to do in the past. So you label this as a success story. Brandon, I want you to email me back after you've practiced this, after you've worked it, and it's going to feel uncomfortable, but I promise you, anxiety starts to reduce. I've confidence that you'll be able to do this. And then you're going to email me back, and we're going to share the story about your success story of practicing this process and noticing that you were able to have anxiety and that you learned that you were stronger than anxiety, number one. And number two, that your worst fear didn't happen. I'm willing to bet it won't happen. And I'll tell you what, if you float off into the sky, I'll give you $1,000. Okay? Now, this does not count for any rapture that may or may not occur. I'm not counting that. Or alien abduction. I don't count either one of those within this agreement. But if you just float off, call me, reach out, I'll give you $1,000. And if you don't, you owe me $1,000? No, don't do that. But, if you don't, great. Then maybe the fear was wrong. Maybe that thought, that story that you've never encountered in real life, other than a TV show about Hercules, maybe it's wrong. So, something to consider. So, Brandon, I hope that was helpful. Everybody else in this episode. So I got through the 4 things. Thank you so much for holding through this episode. Thank you so much for your patience in when I can't get through an episode or can't get an episode out. And I hope everybody's doing well. So to every listener, to every questioner, until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye.